Hopefully, this isn't too painful on the eyes. But I was thinking about like shit that I went through in my fucking childhood, and one of the fucking things, like, this is why I actually call like the religious bullshit that I went through like cult like activity, and the trauma that I got from that, because I haven't heard anybody else really talk about, you know, this part of it outside of like one Flyleaf song. And it's the saying that if somebody holds a gun to your head, and at like, am I even allowed to say that? Damn. Um I just, whatever. Basically, if someone holds a pew pew to your head and asks you if you believe in God, you're supposed to say yes no matter what they do. And I grew up with that for many, many years. Like hearing that no matter what happens, you're supposed to say yes. And as a child with the burden of your own life in your hands, and like having to potentially come up with these scenarios, it was like the quicksand scenarios where you would think it would happen more often than it does. And the way that they taught it was just like, oh, yep, the world's gonna end soon, and this is what's gonna happen, and you have to say yes, or else you're going to hell. And I was just like, what the fuck? And I was just like, you know what? Whatever. Whatever happens, whatever I say in that moment, it'll just be in that moment. I'll figure it out when I get there. The worst part about this little issue was hearing later on, after I had siblings, that it wasn't just you directly whose life you had to say yes about. If they threatened someone else's life, you were still supposed to say yes, even at their expense. And I had to watch one of my caretakers internally struggle with the potential, like, of having to say yes when, like, it was more of a when rather than an if. It happened to my youngest sibling. And mind you, I am the oldest out of four kids. So I'm over here like, wait, this now applies if they say yes to, like, we're supposed to say yes if it's threatening someone else's life? Like, that's not fair. Like, I almost said my kids. See, that's what I mean about the whole freaking parentification. I was like, that's not fair. My siblings haven't even been here long enough to even have like a real consciousness. Like, that's fucked up. And mind you, I'm 10 years older than the youngest one. And I'm having to watch them contemplate how they're going to say yes rather than go to hell. And in my own head, I'm like, fuck that. I am not going to sit here and go through the trauma of watching people, like my younger siblings, cease to exist because I said yes to a fucking question. Send me to fucking hell if it'll save their fucking lives, is what I was thinking at the time. And I had to sit here and figure out, okay, so what do I do? Do I like if I say no, then it spares their life. But what if it's not me that's asked the question and one of the adults says yes, and then I have to figure out a way to push them out of the way of whatever impending doom that they have coming to them, and figure out how to get past that. And this was fucking stressful for, and not even like, I don't even know if I was a teenager at the time. I don't remember at the time, like, that this had first come in. It was that, or either I was like a really young teen. And I'm sitting here trying to keep scenarios in my head of what I'm gonna do, and just be like, okay, well, if somebody else says, you know, yes, then I have to make sure I can get them out of the way, because no, that's not going to be me, and I'm going to just say no. I don't give a fuck if I burn up in hell. I've already, like, I because this was actually the point after there was a lot of hardcore, like, anti LGBTQ stuff, because mind you, I was born in the 90s, so this was before everything became legal, which is so fucking dumb to think about now, that it was illegal to marry a person. But I had already, like, had friends who were gay at this point, and I'm just like, well, I'm already going to hell. I was like, God, if you want me to hate these people, then send me to fucking hell. I'm not gonna hate people that didn't do shit to me. And I was just like, you know what, I'm already hellbound anyway, so why not save a life on the way? And I really had to, this was a stressful fucking scenario for me. This was a intensely stressful scenario for me, because this was verbally contemplated, considering saying yes to a fucking question to spare their own soul and not the life of a child. And I am probably the only person that would ever remember it. So therefore, it would probably be argued that it never happened, which is typically how it goes. Either it never happened, or, that's not exactly how it went, or whatever the case is. But that was a very stressful thing for somebody who had zero freedom whatsoever. And this is one of the things that shaped how deeply I distrust people in general. And I don't think I've ever fully trusted a single person since that issue. Because what the fuck was that even? And just thinking back to it, it's painful to, like, relive that through my childhood eyes, because I was really stressed that this was going to be a real thing that I was going to have to defend against. Like, the entire world would be at its end, and people were going to go ending people over believing in God. And this was preached quite often in some of the circles that I traversed as a Christian kid. And this is why I am still funneling through a hell of a lot of fucking resentment specifically towards that religion. Because I didn't need to be stressed out that bad that early on. Like, that sapped away so much of my freaking life. It was ridiculous. So, yeah, that's a bit of fucking church trauma that I had to fucking go through as a kid. And yeah, that was a fucking nightmare. That was so deeply traumatizing. Honestly, I don't even know if I could explain how bad that fucked me up. To, like, have to deal with shit like that. Anyways.